The Athletic constantly has fantastic deals. It's very simple. It's some of the best sports journalism you can find anywhere. You can find familiar names like Sam Amick, like Jason Jones, and so many more covering your Sacramento Kings, your 49ers, your A's, your Giants, your Raiders. Just go to The Athletic and get yourself a subscription and consider yourself an informed fan. Like I said earlier, I missed the last two conversations with Sam, and that's when he always talked about all the good stuff. So we'll see what he has for us today as he joins us with Jason Ross gone. Good morning, Sam.
Good morning, Dave. Welcome back.
Hey, thanks, buddy. How are you?
I'm doing fine. You know, I'm on the home front. I was going to go to the Lakers-Warriors game tonight, but I think the absence of LeBron is going to lead to my absence as well. But no complaints. I'm good.
Interesting that you're not in Oklahoma City right now, flat in the middle of the race for the 8th spot.
I know, man.
Yeah.
I've been trying to pump it on Twitter, and even my colleagues. Yeah, they've been giving me a hard time. One of my buddies who covers the Lakers was complaining because he has me on direct notifications, and he's like, "Dude, you've tweeted out your story like 14 times." Like, I don't care. It's exciting.
Yeah, it is.
I mean, I've always liked the race for 8th. I end up being West Coast skewed just because of my location. This one is kind of fun because we didn't really think there was a race. You know what I mean? Like, it looked like Memphis was going to be the squad, and then just a bunch of things have happened. Obviously, Brandon Clark getting hurt, Jaren Jackson Jr. getting hurt. They just haven't played as well, and they also have the toughest strength of schedule the rest of the way in the whole league. And, you know, your Kings being on the uptick, and then all these other teams that are in the mix too. You know, I'm curious to see how it ends up turning out.
Sam, you and your friends wrote an article not that long ago on the Kings and are basically responsible for all the Buddy Hield trade rumors. That's how I see it, at least. And
that's fair.
I want to ask you, Jay Mars and I want to ask you, we've been waiting for you to come on since you're a real journalist. We're going to play a game of Is This News? On Instagram, there's a Sacktown royalty in Philadelphia called Sixers Alliance, basically. And they put up a picture of Buddy Hield with a Sixers logo underneath him and rumors written on the left-hand side of this photo. And it says the Sixers could potentially swap Al Horford for Buddy Hield in the offseason. As Buddy is most likely requesting a trade, the Sixers could maybe trade for the Kings star per Matty Breish. And we looked up Matty Breish. No disrespect to him, but 145 Twitter followers, and the best I've gathered, he writes for some other Philadelphia blog. So my question for you is this. See, that's not news, but what did catch mine and other people's eyes is that Buddy Hield liked that post on Instagram. So in today's day and age, have we evolved to the point where when a star player who was previously written about in a major publication, The Athletic, possibly wanting a trade in the future, when that star player then likes something on Instagram that states that he could get traded to another team and could request a trade, do we as journalists, or excuse me, do you as a journalist consider that newsworthy?
Not from the standpoint of, like, I'm not going to stop my day and write a story about it.
Sure.
I mean, yeah, do I think it's fair? It's got to be measured. I think in today's climate, with social media being part of the equation, is it fair to, if I had a talk radio show or if I was a King-centric writer, I'll put it this way, Jason Jones, like you mentioned, from our place, I wouldn't be mad at Jason if he had a little fun with Buddy in the locker room and said, hey, people noticed that you like this post. You know what people's reaction to that is going to be, because you can't read someone's mind, but the inference obviously is that it doesn't necessarily mean that he wants to play for Philly, although he'd probably be a good fit, but it does send a message to your current fans of the current team that you play for that you would, possibly be, giving a thumbs up to some sort of trade scenario. I mean, that's, but the truth is he could then say, like, no, I just thought it was funny that, like he could have some other motivation for hitting like, and so that would probably be my style, is like, since, the only thing we're bringing to the table, not the only thing, but one of the main things from our positions is access, right? Like to the players, to the coaches. That would be my approach to it, is that if the volume around that situation, I mean, I didn't know about it till just right now when you mentioned it to me. So the volume wasn't enough to have it cross my desk. But if it was, something that a lot of people were talking about, I think it's fair to ask about. But you don't need to ask about it as if this is Watergate. You know what I mean? Like, you don't need to, buddy, we got a real serious thing to talk about here,
Right.
But it is interesting. And I think beyond Buddy, we do see these situations happen pretty frequently these days, where just guys, things they do on social media are getting interpreted, a certain way. And it does raise a lot of questions.
Buddy Hield for Ben Simmons. Who says no?
The team on the other side.
Yeah. Sam Amick joining us. Sam, why is this team improving? Is it, I would say lack of opponent, but they're playing the Clippers, beating the Clippers a couple times, and they've got some quality wins. Is it health? Is it Luke Walton finally getting his lessons listened to? Is it the Buddy Hield move to the bench? Am I basically taking your answer for you and throwing every reason out? Is there something you can point to as to why this team has won 9 of 12?
9 of 13, I believe.
9 of 13, I apologize.
Don't get too ahead of yourself.
Optimistic.
De'Aaron Fox would be my first answer, playing at a pretty high level. It's funny, I heard when you were bringing me on your comment about Chris Paul.
Yeah.
And I'm going to sound like I'm nitpicking, not with you, but I think you raised a decent point. I'm all for the Chris Paul, revenge tour, and he's been really good. And I think the part about Chris Paul's year at OKC that you can't quantify, you can, but it's not going to be points and assists, is just the way that he's handled that challenge, the way that he's impacted in a positive way other members of the Thunder. The fact that Shai Gilgeous-Alexander Chris has kind of allowed him to coexist and thrive, and it's not a territorial type thing. Chris has been phenomenal, but it has really struck me that narratives are a crazy thing, because within the context of the Houston Rockets, Chris could put up these numbers and he's just like a really bad, Robin to James Harden's Batman. And in this context, he's a leader of men, because nobody expected anything. It's all about expectation versus, results and outcome. That calculus is just as old as time. So the De'Aaron thing, he's produced and he's played well, and I give him a lot of credit. I don't know De'Aaron very well. I've enjoyed the limited times I've talked to him. I watched his interview after the Warriors game the other night and found myself having a lot of respect for the guy as a player. I mean, I already did, but he talked to Katie Hunter about his just being banged up, and at one point it struck me that he plainly stated that he had never been through anything like this before, and he's obviously got a shoulder that's nagging him. Seems like some other things. And I think Kings fans, this is going to sound corny, but I do hope they appreciate that this young dude appears to be trying to grind through during a tough season and with full knowledge that this fan base has 14 years of frustration that just is constantly weighing on this group because of the lack of a playoff berth. And so I give De'Aaron credit for trying to focus through that and to play well. He would be my number one reason. I think another thing that comes to mind, Dave, is that with Marvin Bagley's status being somewhat clarified in terms of, 3 weeks until another reevaluation, the idea that he could be out for the year, I think teams in general, when you have clarity about, who's part of this right now and who's not, sometimes that helps too. And these guys know that if they're going to get this thing done and have a positive finish to the season, it's going to be mostly with the guys they have right now, and hopefully with Rashawn Holmes coming back too.
Sam Amick joining us right now. I'll get back to the Kings in a second, but when you look at this race for the 8th spot, and I love that you're into it, because it is, we've been wondering about this Western Conference. I think it surprised us in the fact that the 8th seed is 2 games under 500, and nobody really predicted that this year. I think everybody thought it would be around 45, 50 wins, or maybe the leagues turned out to be, the conferences turned out to be a slaughterhouse at the top of the page. But you've got the Pelicans, the Blazers, the Kings, and the Spurs, all with 33 losses. And Memphis is absolutely falling apart. As much as you know I have my purple glasses on, I fully believe the Kings will finish within 2 games probably in the playoffs, but everything's pointing to the Pelicans right now. If you were betting, and of course you don't because you're a journalist, but if you were betting, do you agree, are the Pelicans right now the team to beat for that 8 seed?
Yeah, I wrote that the other day.
I know, I read it. Sorry.
Yes. No, I didn't mean that like you didn't read it, but I just that's like, it's like another tweet, Dave. I'm just promoting.
I got you.
I'm just shamelessly using your platform.
Please do.
Please read The Athletic. Yeah, like Zion has been incredible. I felt like a fanboy when I saw him in person for the first time the other day, just from a basketball perspective.
Who did you see him play against for the first time when you went?
The Warriors.
Okay, and I went and I was in New Orleans and I saw him play against Oklahoma City in the game before the All-Star break. And I just want to stop you because I felt the same way. I saw him at Duke, not in person, but I'd seen him play. I knew he was good. But Sam, isn't there something about seeing him up close that just closes the deal for you?
Yeah, for sure. And it's not even just on the floor because, in like up close, in his media scrum, did say hello to him and introduce myself. I'd never met the guy before. And one thing, and as a fellow father that you can understand and relate to, I kept thinking to myself, before seeing him play in person for the first time, I had actually shown him, on TV to our youngest son, our 10-year-old Landon, and I told Landon, like, hey, buddy, this would be a fun player. If he's not a big hoops fan, basketball fan, but I said if you have one guy that you might want to follow, he just started and he's really exciting, and maybe you pay attention to him. But the thing that struck me was that I'm telling Landon, who's 10, I'm like, buddy, this guy is 9 years older than you. and bear in mind that my, Landon is about 62 pounds.
Right. Right.
And it's like, so Zion looks like he ate like 5 Landon. And he's just physically imposing, and he walked by me at one point, and it's just, man, his arms are just massive. And he's got this like Paul Bunyan type stature, but within the pogo stick kind of, kind of skill and ability. So it was fun to watch him, and the numbers, I mean, the eye test, jumps out at you, and then the numbers jump off the page. He is up there. One stat I wrote the other day was that in his first 12 games, in terms of games with 20-plus points and 50-plus percentage shooting from the field, 9 of his first 12 games in the NBA met those thresholds. That was a league best of all time in the first 12 games of anybody's career. And 9 out of the 12, the second place guy was a guy by the name of Shaquille O'Neal, who had 8.
Okay. And
it's like, he is the X factor for the Pelicans. On top of that, to your main question about who gets the A seed, we got to give the rest of the Pelicans some love. They were 11-4 before he got back.
Yeah.
They were figuring it out, and they have a lot of talent. So I'm with you. I think they probably get it. I think Portland is definitely still worth watching, too, based on when does Damian Lillard come back. And then to a lesser degree, I don't know the timeline on Zach Collins, but they should get Zach back at some point, and then Yusuf Nurkic as well. So they've got health stuff. But yeah, I think New Orleans is probably your leader.
I was asked a question yesterday. I'm just going to throw this at you. You can take one to build your team around. Luka Doncic or Zion Williamson. Who do you take?
Man, that's tough. I mean, the sample size is really small. I'm going to say Zion.
Yeah.
It's the Luka thing. This is a terrible stance to take right now. I just do wonder. Like, one thing I'm watching with him going forward is that, and this is like right up the King's alley in terms of the way they looked at him, is just you have how great a player is in a vacuum, and then you have that's kind of the micro. Then you have the question of forget about ceiling, and the word ceiling is a trigger word for Kings fans. I'm not talking about Luka's ceiling. I'm talking about the fact that what does a championship team look like with Luka versus what does a championship team look like with Zion?
Sure.
I think it's probably easier to construct with Zion. The attention that he draws offensively, now his passing ability, I don't have a great feel for. He's known as a decent passer. He's probably only going to get better. But we use that word gravity a lot, and Luka certainly attracts a ton of gravity with his playmaking skills. But Zion is just like a magnet for opposing defenses, and it opens up everything. And then on top of that, you're never out of a possession because he's got that second bounce that is just absurd, And then the defensive stuff, Luka's, a below-average defender at this point. But with Zion physically, we saw the other night when he played against Anthony Davis, if you get Zion in a bunch of pick and rolls, he's going to have a hard time. But in terms of slowing down another team's big star, like an AD, he basically did that. Anthony was 6 of 21 from the field, and that really, I thought, was impressive. So, that might be the wrong answer. Luka's incredible.
Right.
And the other thing with Luka is, going to attract a lot of talent. I heard Jared Dudley of the Lakers talk about this on a podcast the other day. He was saying, he's like, man, guys are going to be signing up to play with Luka. So, that's kind of a tight race between those two guys, I'd say.
Well, and let me, and I don't. You mentioned triggering Kings fans. I want to put a caveat here. I'm literally going to pull a hamstring making this stretch here, but I thought what you said about the two is very interesting as far as what is it a good team or a championship team look like with Zion versus Luka. Can we stretch and into Vlade's brain maybe and think that's a similar philosophy to what he was thinking when it was Bagley versus Luka? Bagley is not Zion, but you could make an argument that he, at best, would be like a Zion light in fairly similar styles of play.
Yeah, that the word stretch. Yes, it's a massive stretch at this point to put Bagley and Zion in the same sentence,
right?
But
what they thought Bagley would be.
Right, and I get your point for sure. It's also a question of, and we've talked about this, we've written about this, usage rate, who's got the ball. We'll never know how De'Aaron Fox and Luka might have coexisted together. That was obviously a major factor in that decision. Now, there are people who believe that Luka is so much better than De'Aaron that you simply had to draft him anyway, and then if that means you go get value on the trade market for De'Aaron, then you do it. I get that for sure. I also understand that an organization like the Kings that had been mired in, not even mediocrity, but, even worse for over a decade, like the idea of casting aside a talent like De'Aaron Fox when he had been a rare bright spot, like he had, that I understand why they wouldn't want to do that. And so it's just, you look at the Mavs lineup and their roster and how they function, and all of the guards around Luka Doncic are, low usage rate shooters. It's Seth Curry's, it's, guys like that, Tim Hardaway Jr., and he doesn't have a lot of competition for the ball. And that's where the Kings got hung up on the prospect of drafting him. And that is where, Luka looks to me like a guy who 100% is capable of leading a championship team. I just don't know exactly what that looks like.
Well, a LeBron versus Zion playoff series would be ratings gold, but the rest of the West won't go quietly. Those are the words of Sam Amick. Sure, the article's 2 days old, and he hasn't really done much else this week, but I expect a lot of new content coming from him soon.
PJ Tucker, that's the sexy story I got coming next.
I've been waiting for the PJ Tucker story.
Man, come on, PJ. It's that time of year I'm going to get self-indulgent and write these stories that I only care about, and hopefully other people do too. I've decided that PJ Tucker, the Rockets big man who is the X factor to their small ball revolution, is not getting enough love. So
okay.
I'm crafting a love letter to PJ Tucker.
You know what? Don't follow the narrative, Sam. Craft the narrative for the rest of us. That's what a good writer does,
right.
My friend.
Yeah, Harden who? Westbrook who? PJ Tucker's the MVP of the Rockets.
Good talk, my friend. Go to theathletic.com. Download the app. Get yourself a subscription. It really is fantastic journalism. They're a very much up-and-coming company, and nobody's better at his job there than our good friend Samuel Amick from Elk Grove. See you, buddy.
Thanks, buddy. Appreciate you.
Take care. That is Sam Amick.